One man. Goodbye. Hello, Heisman.
20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. All the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone.
Four-man Alabama rush. Got him. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to Rivalry Week, the best single week of college football, in my humble opinion, on the entire calendar. And we get to do it with copious amounts of food and beverage, likely from our favorite seat. With that, we welcome you to the Three Technique for one final time in the regular season, the college football podcast at the intersection of the X's and O's and the Jimmies and the Joes with Trey Reeves, Garrett Turney. I'm Mitch Mason. Trey, there is a ton going on in Rivalry Week where not only do we get to look forward towards these historic matchups, the big game, the Egg Bowl, the Lone Star Showdown, but Trey, we have so much on the line between conference championships, playoff bursts as well. This week feels like maybe the most crazy, topsy-turvy, doomsday scenario rivalry week that I can ever remember.
This is exactly what we dreamed of when we were excited about the 12-team playoff getting announced and the expansion of the playoff, more access, more games meaning something. I've heard some of even the detractors of the 12-team playoff kind of admit this year that, hey, we're actually really dialed in to the regular season. And we've been hinting at it for a couple weeks, guys. It's been building, especially in the SEC, in the Big 12. In the Big 10 a little bit as well. There's some massive storylines there. ACC craziness in this conference standings that's going to get decided this week. But fellas, there's a lot going on in college football off the field, right? We've got a coaching carousel. We've got NIL. We've got a conference flirting with private equity. I just want to pitch to you right now. Can we just lock in? Can we just lock in on the games themselves? Coaching carousel is going to work itself out in due time. We have no control over private equity decisions. Let's just enjoy the stuff on the field, man. It's our last week of the year. So much is on the line, and we get to just take in what makes this the greatest sport in the world and the greatest country on planet Earth. Hallelujah. God bless America. Roll damn Tide. Let's go to Rivalry Week, guys.
USA, USA.
Yeah,
USA.
I got some chills. I've got goosebumps. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. Garrett, I mean, with all of that in mind, as we're ready to go take the gridiron ourselves, I really would like to know, like, where are you going to be like fat and happy as we watch all of this action unfold? Do you have a recliner? Do you have a favorite couch and cushion that you cozy up to? Like, what are your plans this weekend?
You got to know at this point in the season where your voodoo spot is, right? You got to know where
sure.
it is you should be sitting, you know, which couch, where you got to be sitting, what you got to be wearing. For me, it's going to be on that right side of the couch, right? I got that right view. I got a view of another screen at that point and kind of that angle. And that's been where the voodoo's been good for me. So, you know, if it's your team and it's your rivalry week, you got to know at this point what's working for you, right? And hopefully, Mitch, what that doesn't mean for you is another long trip around the great mid cities of this beautiful metroplex we have, because I'm hoping for you. Maybe it'll be a good thing. You know, we were kind of talking off the top with the amount of eating that we got to do. There's kind of like cardio trade that we got to get. So it could be good for your long-term health. You know, obviously not going to be great for your college football watching, but could be good for your health.
Yeah, it's listen, I don't know if you guys, I can't remember if you guys told that story or not on that weekly recap. I walked 8 miles during the second half of the A&M South Carolina game because I just started and didn't stop because A&M started coming back. So I was a good ag. Trey's got the kitchen spot.
Sure
That's maybe a little bit
8 miles. I don't think I realized it was that long of a walk.
It was lengthy. 2.5 hours basically. Started as a jog, kind of out of frustration, and then ended up being just a long stroll, like you said, through the mid cities. So it's a lot darker now when A&M will be playing Texas. I hope I don't have to do that. It's cold and rainy here in the Metroplex as well. It just Doesn't sound like a lot of
You're gonna
fun.
get in a fight with a possum if you're out too late on some of those trails. I'll tell you what.
Tell you what, I've got a possum that lives in my backyard, so I don't have to go all that far to pick a fight if that's what's needed. Enough about the flora and fauna in my backyard. We're doing things a little bit differently this weekend, guys. And basically, I kind of pitched this as like just a mosey through the best weekend in college football. So for this week, we're doing away with the big three. We don't have a slept on game of the week. Honestly, we believe that every single game could occupy your main TV screen, and there'd be a reason for it because there's so many games with stakes on the line. So what we're going to do is basically go chronologically from Thursday night all the way through Saturday night, take the highlights, talk about the rivalry games that have the most on the line. We'll give you a picture of what championship seeds and tickets that can be punched look like, the conference races. We'll obviously intermix the playoff bursts that are on the line as well. But guys, off the top, have to mention the final weekend of Maction, just as an objective rule. It's hard to cover Maction when we record our previews so early in the week because by the time they've come out, the games have been played, but by the time we record, they still haven't been played. So 3:30 Central Time on Tuesday. This episode is coming out early. You're welcome. Get it ready for the drive to grandma's house, wherever you're going. But 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday, Bowling Green plays hapless UMass. If you want
Stand alone game.
That's right. Shout out John
The
Rothstein.
eyes of the nation.
If you need something to get you through that last little bit of your Tuesday workday, because let's be honest, nobody's being productive this week, Bowling Green at UMass. Can I interest you in that? 6:30 p.m. that night, Western Michigan at Eastern Michigan. Western Michigan clinches a spot in the MAC title game with a win. We talked about maybe the spunkiness in Kalamazoo in the preview season. Really glad to see Western Michigan kind of take that bull by the horns, and hopefully they can get a win at the factory on Tuesday night, lock up that bid in Detroit. But guys, we want to start our analysis on Thursday night. And Trey, I'll kick this to you. It doesn't have a automatic berth in the championship game on the line, but you talk about standalone games. Navy at Memphis on Thursday night. The Tigers are 5.5-point favorites. I'll get a pick from both of you guys here after you maybe give the background here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great alternative to a very injured Cincinnati Bengals team. I don't know why you'd want to watch that when you could be watching a triple option attack from Navy take on one of the most high-flying offenses in the G5 in Memphis. But yeah, I mean, Memphis has kind of fallen apart as the season has come down the stretch, right? They had the promising start, 6-0 at one point, and have really faltered down the stretch. So they're in danger of falling to 8-4, guys, which just didn't seem possible a few weeks ago. Navy has weathered the storm pretty well on this tough stretch at the end. Still alive for the American Conference title, still alive for the college football playoff at this point. Would be an awesome story if they're able to accomplish that, and they would still have a game against Army after the selection show. That would be very interesting. So just a nugget to file away. They need a lot of help to get to the American Championship game, but winning at Memphis would do wonders for their metrics going towards that. That's kind of a theme for the G5. Side note, tiebreakers are broken by computers in the G5 world, which is just fantastic. Love it. We might not find out some of these matchups till Sunday or maybe even Tuesday in some cases because the college football playoff rankings are involved. But I digress. This is going to be a fun one to throw on your TV as you're heating up a plate of leftovers, escorting the family out of your celebration if you're hosting, and just settling in for
get out, leave.
Yeah, I mean, kick the family out, throw the dog outside. It's Memphis Navy time, right? Like I think I've always said that. So yeah, I'm excited for this one, guys. I think Navy covers. I think it's a road game at Memphis, but Memphis just hasn't been the same team. I think Navy finds a way to win this one outright in the Liberty Bowl and sends very interesting tiebreaker scenarios into effect.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the other side of it. I do think Memphis will end up winning this one by the margin plus. I think I'm taking minus the 5.5. Really just three reasons. First one, Navy's defense, I think is going to have a really hard time with Memphis's offense. I think they're just too much. And also keeping up, right? The Memphis defensive weakness is against the pass. That's not really Navy's strong suit. So I'm not going to count on them necessarily get it done and keep up. And then the third reason is because selfishly, I really want UNT in this whole situation. So I kind of want Navy to lose. So, you know, no disrespect to the troops, no disrespect for what Navy's got going on. I've got some selfish desires to see the North Texas Mean Green in the playoff.
I don't know what Memphis is at this point in the season. Trey, like you mentioned, they're kind of limping coming in. Ryan Silverfield, their head coach, some rumors about him not being in Memphis, going elsewhere as well. And so, not to get into the coaching carousel, but I do wonder how that affects the locker room where you legitimately might be playing your last game for your head coach. So I'll take Navy. Salute the troops as well in that game. Guys, let's talk Friday morning. Black Friday gets going. Kind of a weird spot for this rivalry game. I miss it on Thanksgiving night. But of course, we are talking about the Egg Bowl on Friday morning. Ole Miss, 7.5-point favorites at Mississippi State. We're on Lane Kiffin watch. We've got that weird announcement from the Ole Miss athletic department that an announcement is coming, but it's on Saturday after the Egg Bowl. Kind of gives me big he gone vibes as Baton Rouge tries to recruit Kiffin to save the Tigers. But what you do have coming in is you have Ole Miss, who just has one loss. It feels like their playoff berth is all but secure. They are alive technically for the SEC championship game, but they need to win at Mississippi State. Plus, they need help from Texas and from Auburn to get to Atlanta. For Mississippi State, they're trying to get to bowl eligibility. And no doubt they have been better this year than I think a lot of us anticipated, especially in the previous season. We were squinting to get them to 4 wins, and here they are with a chance to knock off their biggest rival and go bowling for the first time in a little bit. The line is a suspiciously low line for kind of the discrepancy between these two teams. Ole Miss can do it on both sides of the ball, high flying offense. Mississippi State's got a really difficult time stopping the run, and yet as of time of recording, the spread is only 7.5. So Trey, start with you. What kind of leaning feeling do you have early on a Friday morning?
I get all the intangibles, all the off the field stuff. Lane Kiffin addressed that in his press conference today and actually had a really interesting take on it that I've been wondering kind of how locker rooms are handling it. He basically was like, guys, it's a new generation and they are also looking out for their interests next year and taking care of themselves next year. So it's maybe not affecting locker rooms as much as we think, or maybe that's just, Lane spreading the copium. I don't know. What I do know is Ole Miss, and specifically Quan Lacey, can run the heck out of the football. Over just a monster game last time out against Florida, gashed the Gator defense. And what I also know is Mississippi State gave up over 300 yards to one Ahmad Hardy just a few days ago with no passing attack whatsoever from the Missouri Tigers. So I don't love that matchup. That run game's going to travel for Ole Miss. And every time I feel like I want to pick Mississippi State, this would be a fantastic spot to pick Mississippi State. There's been other fantastic spots to pick Mississippi State, like when Georgia was in a classic letdown look ahead spot between, I think it was Ole Miss and Texas, maybe.
Something like that.
Games. There's been other spots where you might want to be tempted to take Ole Miss when they're playing Florida. You want to take them outright when Florida's down, right? And they're definitely going to fire Billy Napier right after that game. They lose that one. They've lost so many close games this year. It's going to be a fun back and forth game. The Egg Bowl always is. It's actually been decided by 12 points or fewer in 7 of the last 8 matchups. But I think Ole Miss wins this one by about 10. I think they find a way, get a little separation late. This game might move really fast with that run game, but I think Ole Miss has more than enough to rely on. And they're playing for their playoff lives, guys. I think that if they lose this game, they're in very big danger of falling out of the field. 10-2 theme this week. 10-2 is not safe. 10-2 is you are on the bubble and you are at the mercy of the committee. That's what 9-3 was last year with all the ACC not having a team in the top 12, the group of 5 not having that Boise State this year. 10-2 puts you on the bubble of an at-large spot, and they don't want to be on that bubble regardless of the coaching situation. So, yeah, taking Ole Miss here. I think they got more to rely on. That run game is going to travel, man. And I think that it's just going to be too much to overcome for Mississippi State.
I did write in our Rivalry Week primer, which is a subtle plug to go check out our Substack. I gave you basically a written guide to all the rivalry games, the biggest storylines, what to watch for with championships, conference championships, playoff bursts, etc., in written form. So if you like that, check out our Substack for that information. But basically, the best way that you can slice it, 22 teams are technically still in the race for 12 spots because we don't have a championship a single conference championship in the Power Four that has a seat claimed yet. There's just so much still up in the air that 10-2 suddenly doesn't feel all that secure. Definitely an interesting storyline to watch for Ole Miss. Garrett, Bulldogs, Rebels, 7.5. Which way are you leaning?
I'm going to take Mississippi State plus a 7.5, mostly because it gives me 2 out of 3, kind of outcomes here, and I have no idea how to account for Lane Kiffin and all the drama that's going on around that. Right? Like, I tried to sit down and think and go, okay, so does the fact that he's like maybe on the way out, does that like fire up his players to show that it wasn't him, it was actually the players the whole time? Is his head even with Ole Miss right now? Are they even like considering what this game looks like, or is he trying to figure out how to do his own version of LeBron James, the decision, right? Like, is that what he's going to be doing with this press conference? Is he actually super locked in because he's trying to make a point and he's going to throw on the Ole Miss hat at the press conference and he's going to say, we're taking it all the way and, go Rebs, we're going to go finish this thing up. I have literally no clue. I don't know how to judge this one, but I do think that with all the distractions plus the 11 a.m., like it's kind of an early sleepy start. We've seen that happen with SEC teams, right? Where the 11 a.m. kick kind of gets the better team to come out a little bit slow. I know that it's a rivalry game, but that goes both ways. A lot of pride in, kind of the Mississippi State side. They could score quick, get some busted coverages on some sleepy plays. And Ole Miss has played some tighter games, right? Like if you think they got the 10-point win versus Florida, not a fantastic Florida team. They also had to pull away late in that one. 3-point win versus Washington State, 7-point win versus Kentucky. So I'm not really sure that they have the ability to blow out an inferior opponent. And even with all of that, I still think that they're the much better team that should be able to. Like, if you're just looking X's and O's, I think that they should be able to beat them pretty soundly. I just don't know that that's the case in this spot. Egg Bowl's going to get weird. We'll try to refrain from Ole Miss players, mimicking, dogs and their biological functions in this one. So I guess I'll just kind of go with the plus 7.5 for Mississippi State side and hope that gets me one of the outcomes, right? It gives me 2 of the 3. So I'll take them on this one.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't a rivalry game, you take Ole Miss and run to the bank. But because it is, what's the age-old adage? You throw out the records, you throw out the stats, especially when you get two teams that hate each other like Ole Miss and Mississippi State do. And Mississippi State, for all of their failures this year, they do have something to play for, right? I mean, it's been a minute since they've had a successful season, what they would call a successful season. And I know 6-6 isn't the standard down in Stark Vegas, but it's a stepping stone in the right direction. And so I think if they could get up early, knock off an Ole Miss team, maybe ruin their season, send Lane Kiffin out with a loss, and oh, by the way, also go bowling for the first time in Jeff Levy's tenure. I think that's a lot of things that'll motivate Mississippi State. Now, can they stop the run? Probably not. I don't know. But then again, we've seen stranger things happen. So I'm on Mississippi State plus the points as well. I'll take those 2 outcomes and, maybe Ole Miss wins by 30. We'll see. But should be an entertaining way to start off our Black Friday. Other games in that time slot. This is the morning time slot on Black Friday. Utah, 13.5-point favorites at Kansas. You've got the Heroes game, which I hate that this is early on the Friday. Iowa, 6.5-point favorites at Nebraska. And then you've got Ohio, 5.5-point favorites at Buffalo in the MAC. Certainly championship implications for Ohio on the line here. Buffalo, man, at one point, I was really high on them, maybe winning 10 games plus this season. They have completely fallen apart. They're just fighting for a bowl game as well. So an entertaining quad box if you got YouTube TV. Guys, let's go to the afternoon slate. And as a tear rolls down my cheek, let's talk about clean old-fashioned hate. Georgia, 12.5-point favorites at Georgia Tech. Garrett, I think we should let Trey maybe take a victory lap here. You and I, we rode the Ramble and Wreck into the ground. We are stranded on the side of a highway in the middle of nowhere. Trey, you did pick Pitt. You were right about the matchups and just everything going against Georgia Tech here. I've got to imagine that you're probably on the dogs here with the Yellow Jackets, seeming like they've run out of gas.
Well, Pitt doesn't have a car that I can Photoshop you guys getting run over with, so I'm wondering, do I just have to, force feed you guys a Joey Chestnut number of Costco hot dogs, or, what do I do here with that graphic? I'll save everybody the visual. I won't post that online, but it might be in my Canva drafts. Anyways,
I know.
Georgia Minus 12.5. Yeah, I like that line, guys. I really do. Georgia feels like they're rounding into form. They've really put together a nice run here down the stretch when everybody's kind of been looking around the SEC, looking at Texas A&M and Alabama and even Texas going into that game. There was a lot of talk about how Texas could win in Athens and that Texas was getting better, and all they do is win by 25 points going away in the fourth quarter. I really like Georgia's quiet confidence this year. They're great running the football. They're quietly gotten a lot better in the passing game as the season has gone along. And on the defensive side of the ball, guys, it's like Pitt, but with better athletes. They're going to stop the run. They're going to force Georgia Tech into really uncomfortable situations. They don't quite rush the passer as good as Pitt does. Pitt has a lot, schematically is just way more excited to rush the passer. Georgia's not really as interested in doing that. So it might be interesting to see how that plays out if Haynes King has a little bit more time to throw than he did against Pitt. But I mean, short of last year's just fireworks out of nowhere, right? Which is 100% what could happen in rivalry games. When you pick here and when you look at these spreads, you try to remove that as much as possible. Yes, there's going to be intangibles. Yes, there's going to be crazy things that happen. Rivalry week makes the ball bounce in funny ways. But just looking at the teams on paper, it's hard to not pick Georgia in this game, which definitely means we're getting another all-timer classic, and Haynes King's going to have a legacy game.
Which, hey, I mean, sign me up for that, right? Like if us counting Georgia Tech out of this game, I'm on Georgia minus the 12.5 as well. But if our counting the wreck out of this game means we get another thriller and means that Brent Key and the boys down at the Georgia Institute of Technology have us right where they want him, then let's go. Let's ride. Because Brent Key does get up for these games, and his program does kind of punch above their weight when you count them out, when you say the matchups don't go their way. I just think that they're out of gas. I think, I made the joke in my article earlier that Haynes King his wear and tear is the full red severe. Like there's just nothing left for our boy. And he's going to be carried, Spider-Man style, like careful, he's a hero out of this building. Yeah, I just think Georgia's got too much going for them. Georgia Tech has been eliminated from the ACC championship game and thereby probably the playoff as well.
No, they have not.
I thought they were completely out. I thought it was down to 4.
My friend, you should scroll to the bottom of the dock while Garrett's talking and just bask in the ACC tiebreaker glory. Because
all right, well, Garrett, the chair cedes the rest of the time to you here. I will go look at that.
This one does not matter for the ACC, of course, because it's not a conference game. So
correct, sure.
Whether or not they win here doesn't matter. But yes, they are still alive. They will be watching with bated breath on some results on Saturday to see.
Fair enough.
Well, man, I got to tell you what, I thought that this was it for them. I thought that they were out of the ACC as well. So that kind of changes a little bit because I said that, man, Georgia Tech needs this one just to find a way to stay alive in any way, shape, or form for the playoff. It's probably not happening anyways, but they needed this one as good as anybody could need one. And Mitch, I talked about in kind of the previous preview, we were talking about, hey, the wreck is kind of like that Bluesmobile, and we're just waiting for it to fall apart at a certain point. Well, Mitch, it fell apart, and it feels like we're the ones standing there trying to hand the check over, and we just got cuffed, and it's time to play Jailhouse Rock, right? It feels like it's about that time for Georgia Tech, and I hate it. I don't like it at all. But yeah, Georgia's playing really well right now. They're really rounding into form. What they did to Texas a couple weeks ago is really impressive. They're peaking at the right time. I think Gunner's going to be really good in this one for Georgia. I just kind of think this is their chance to leave no doubt with the committee, even if they're not playing in the SEC championship game, right? Like there's kind of a not super likelihood that they're going to end up in Atlanta, but if that's not their chance to make a statement to the committee, then this is going to be it to say, hey, this is why we deserve, the 5 seed, or, if it's not going to be the 5 seed, then like the 6 seed, right? You'll go fight for your, kind of playoff seeding perspective. And so I think that's probably where Georgia is with this one. And so I don't think they're taking it lightly. I think they're going to take this one pretty serious with a lot of chance to, kind of win this one to some style points. Also getting played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is gross and I hate it. But that just is what we're getting, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm taking Georgia minus the points, and it makes me sad, but I'm not going to be looking back on this one. I feel bad, and if the Wreck makes a glorious return and they win and they find their way in, great, we can talk about it. But I'm going to go ahead and put myself in the doubt camp and say, well, it's a good year. We'll go back next year. We'll see how you look.
It was a legendary first couple of weeks to this season. And then it just felt like
really everything through October. Like they were great through October, and then
8-0, right? They were 8-0.
Yep,
8-0.
wheels came off.
60s.
And then NC State and Pitt got them, and
and they beat BC by 2. Like that's
they beat a hapless Boston College team by 2 points. 8%, by the way. If you don't stick around to the end of the video, 8%. So Georgia Tech is mathematically still in it. My apologies to the RAC, to those faithful that are still holding out.
There's a chance.
There is a mathematical chance, and I'll leave it at that for right now. Other games in that slot, if you're looking to fill out your quad box, San Diego State, just a 1.5 favorite at New Mexico. The Aztecs are in the Mountain West Conference Championship with a win. New Mexico is in with a win and a Boise loss, as Jason Eck has done a heck of a job for the Lobos in year one. Boise State, speaking of the Broncos, they're 3.5-point favorites at Utah State. It feels like the Aggies have also run out of a little bit of gas. They were contenders the front half of the Mountain West schedule, and then they've kind of fallen on hard times.
Beat Fresno State last week, though. They got bowl eligible against Fresno State.
They did beat Fresno State. I think it's felt like a week to week thing where you flip a coin, they look like a competent team. The offense scores, they get a win. Other side of the coin, they're scoring 10 points. So we'll see. Boise State obviously has not been the same since they lost Maddox Madsen. And that offense has really struggled at times this year. And then Temple at North Texas, which is a massive game for our local community and for American fans as well. North Texas is nearly 20-point favorites, guys, as they host Temple to end it. Chance for UNT to go 11-1. Even if they get left out of the American, which is technically still possible, it would be an incredible year up there in Denton. We'll see if they can hang on to Eric Morris, to Drew Mestamaker and all that. They really have put together something quite special. The defense has improved under Skylar Cassidy as well. So a lot to like for the Mean Green. Hopefully they can get it done against Temple and go play for an American Conference Championship and a bowl berth, a playoff berth as well. There's a real likelihood that could indeed be the case. Gentlemen, let's move to prime time on Friday night. This is the one that's going to have all of our attention. I'm talking about the, Cotton Holdings, Lone Star Showdown, Texas A&M and Texas. The Aggies are 2.5-point favorites. They are the number 3 team in the country. This one feels like revenge for the Aggies. They lost 17-7 at Kyle Field last year. The offense just couldn't get anything going. And while the defense certainly did their part and made a number of key stops late, the offense just couldn't get off the mat. This year, though, it feels like the exact opposite, where you look at what Texas's defense has kind of struggled to do over their last 5 games, especially, and you start to lick your chops at what Colin Klein and this Aggie offense might be able to do to Texas. The Longhorn defense over the last 5 games, guys, 512 yards and 37 points to Arkansas, 367 yards and 35 points versus Georgia, 433 yards and 31 points versus Vandy, albeit in a big-time comeback in the second half, 445 yards and 38 points versus Mississippi State, and they also gave up almost 400 yards to Kentucky. They kind of kicked off that Kentucky renaissance on the offensive side of the ball. All of that to say, this isn't the bulletproof Texas defense that it had been over the last 2 years. And while they do get Texas A&M at home, it feels like the Aggies are certainly the better team, the more complete team. They're 2.5-point favorites here. Garrett, let's start with you. The Aggies are trying to go 12-0 for the first time since 1992 when they marched into Austin and beat the Longhorns to complete that perfect season. Do they get it done?
Yeah, I'm going to go 10 toes in the dirt right here and say that the Aggies are going to win this one and they're going to cover. And there's a lot of confidence that I have in this one for A&M. But if you want any evidence of that, just go listen to Mike Elko's press conference and ask yourself, with all the narrative that's been going on in some of the previews, how A&M's 11-0, they really don't even need this one, right? Like, yeah, you go to Atlanta, but you still get a 5 seed if you, at the worst, right? Oh my gosh, 11-1 A&M, that's still okay. And you don't even need, go listen to Mike Elko and ask yourself if 11-0 and an automatic playoff berth and all that stuff, ask if he's thinking any of that just by the tone of his voice. I don't think there's a single person in that Aggie locker room who doesn't view this as a must-win game. Even with the fact that, if you're looking at the Texas side, they need this one as well, right? If they're going to keep their slim, but still technically their playoff hopes alive, they got to have this game. This has got to be a win for them, and it's probably got to be pretty resounding. There's a lot of preview stuff that I've seen so far that has made a lot about A&M's defense having its handful with the Texas offense, and to me, this is a little bit of a bizarre take. First off, Texas can't really run the football, and that has been the A&M weakness on defense, is those kind of big plays that they give up in the run. It seems like every now and then they'll just kind of let one slide, and then there he goes for 20, 30, 40 yards. That's not really something that Texas does. I don't know if they just can't or if they just won't, but they just don't run the football. With a one-dimensional offense, I just don't think that's going to work against a Mike Elko defense. The key for A&M on this defensive side is going to be tackling on the perimeter, trying to keep Texas behind the chains, and then go let your third down defense, which is the best in the country, keep the drives short for Texas and get that ball back for you. For me, again, the better question, Mitch, you were talking about it. How is Texas stopping the A&M offense? It feels like they're guaranteed to score a bunch of points in this one. Again, they've only failed to reach 30 points one time this season. It seems like every time they go on the road, they're scoring 40 or dang near close to 40. I think their lowest scoring on the road so far has been 38 against Mizzou or whatever it was. So if you're just going on road games and what you'd expect the Aggie offense to do, you could probably expect them to put up around 40 points on something like 450 to 500 yards of offense. That's what it seems like they do. You talk about Texas being good against the run. They've given up some bigger numbers against teams that actually run the football, right? 159 against Florida, 128 against Georgia, 188 last week against Arkansas. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up in this one. They're not a great defense at yards after the catch. That's a lot of what A&M's offensive identity is built around, is just kind of the quick game, making it work. Look at the last couple quarters of action for Marcel Reed. He seems to have found something else. Take all of that away. I just love the intangibles for A&M. It's a chance to go undefeated in Austin. You get payback for last year. It's a rivalry week. You get a chance to go to Atlanta. Plus, you get to go shove it to all the doubters who have said that you're not that good, you hadn't really played anybody. And then you're playing a Texas team that needs this win to keep their playoff hopes alive. And there's been some coaching drama you might want to, quell as well, and everything else. A&M's more tested. A&M's the better team. They haven't folded under pressure one time this year. I do not want to do this, but I'm picking them, right? It feels like I'm going to get hurt again. It feels like I got way too much confidence and I'm not going to see it. But the team motto this year is finish. They're going to finish.
Yeah, I'm with you, Garrett. As someone who said in the preseason that no team was going to go undefeated in the regular season, I had never in my wildest dreams that I think Texas A&M would be one of 2 or 3 teams that could make that wrong as we go into the last week of the season. But yeah, I look at this spread, y'all. It's 2.5. I think a lot of that's baking in the home field. I think all year long, the spreads have kind of baked in just the talent that Texas has. One of the most talented rosters in the country, no doubt about it. But for all the talk about A&M not putting a full game together, have the Longhorns had a single outing this year where both the offense and the defense have shown up on the same day against a Power 4 team? Sam Houston, they have a couple wins lately. Congratulations, Bearcats, but I don't think they count for these purposes. I would say no. I don't think they've had a game where both the offense and the defense has shown up. Has the offense gotten better throughout the season? Absolutely, as they figured out what Arch is good at. Has the defense kind of taken a step back as injuries have mounted up? As they last week, talk about the run game, Garrett, last week, they were without Anthony Hill, and he's highly questionable this week, I think, still. So he's probably going to play. I bet he finds a way to play in this one. But when I look at just things where Texas might have the advantage, right? The big playability is definitely there. Texas can break off a long touchdown run, especially if you miss a tackle, like A&M has been prone to do in years past. And sometimes this year it's snuck up, especially on the outside. If they hit a quick screen to Ryan Wingo and he goes for 80 yards, wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Texas could score if you mess up on the outside and miss tackles. They can also force Marcel Reed off his spot, and they can force him to make some mistakes, right? Like that defensive line can still get to the quarterback. Colin Simmons is probably going to be very motivated for this one. I don't know if he's going to do the whole Instagram thing that he did against Ohio State like he did at the beginning of the year, but I think he's going to be very motivated for this one, and he's going to make it his mission to make Marcel Reed make a couple of mistakes. And look, Marcel, for as good as he's been this year, has really, the mistakes have been there. You can almost count on at least one per game, sometimes more, like that first half against South Carolina, and he can't let them snowball like he did against South Carolina. He absolutely cannot let them do that. But those are big advantages for Texas. When I flip it to the other side, guys, I see a lot of advantages for A&M, and that's why I'm picking them ultimately to win and cover here. The A&M D-line versus the Texas offensive line. Texas had a nice day against Arkansas, but I think the game plan is going to be dictated by Texas offensive game plan is going to be dictated by this A&M defensive line. They're going to have to get the ball out quick. They're going to have to find creative ways to run the football if they want to try to commit to that. They're going to try to do what LSU did in the very beginning of the game and had some moderate success for a couple drives, but how long is that going to work against Mike Elko with how good he is at adjustments in the game? I think, Garrett, you mentioned this. A&M's pass game looks like it's going to be a big advantage against the Texas secondary. They're giving up 295 yards per game in SEC play through the air. A&M's fine passing to set up the run. We've seen that time and time again this year when the run game's not working early. And just getting better throughout the game, guys. A&M is plus 117 in scoring in the second half in conference games that year. That's averaging 16.7 points per game better than their conference opponents in the second half this year. A&M just gets better as the game goes on. And we've seen multiple times this year Texas fall apart in the fourth quarter. Vanderbilt, Georgia. They got better last week against Arkansas, but it was after Taylon Green got hurt, right? So bottom line, this is going to be a crazy game. Insane atmosphere. I'm a little worried that the hype might be too big for this A&M team. They want that revenge so bad. They might press a little bit coming out of the gate. We've seen that a few times when they're just trying too hard to make a play this year. But bottom line here, Texas has covered the spread twice this year against power conference opponents, and both times it was with involved a quarterback injury. It was against Oklahoma with John Mateer was coming back from hand surgery, and last week when Taylon Green was knocked out of the game. So I think those algorithms are a little bit off on Texas this year. I just think they are. They're really bad against the spread. So give me the Aggies to finish off the 12-0 perfect regular season.
Which is also crazy. It's crazy to even think that.
I wanted to bring up another thing that you made me think of, Trey. How crazy is the narrative going into this one? That you have one team that's 11-0, obvious lock for the college football playoff, and another team that's 8-3, trying their best not to go 8-4. Like, we all saw that coming in the preseason, right? Like, we all saw that one of them has a quarterback who's definitely in the Heisman conversation. One of them has a quarterback who's gotten better through the course of the year, right? Improving week to week, starting to show that he can both pass and run the football. Obviously, we all saw this coming, right? This was the exact response. Wait a minute, you're telling me one of those teams is actually Texas A&M? That's the one that's 11-0? That's the kind of shocking thing, how the narrative is so quickly flipped from one to the other. I thought about that earlier this week. I was like, man, I got to remember to say that. And then you reminded me of it, so I had to bring that one up. So
yeah, the old Mongolian reversal.
Yeah.
I'm also on the Aggies here. I think they've got the better defense. Trey, you mentioned the secondary, the stats that kind of outline how Texas has really struggled. Their secondary's not been great at tackling either. And you talk about Casey Concepcion, Mario Craver, Terry Bussey, Ashton Bethel Roman, who's been a revelation this second half of the year. A&M's got guys that will make you miss. And as I sat in the South end zone last year for A&M Texas and watched how Texas kind of dismantled the Aggies secondary. Now, they weren't punching them in for touchdowns, but the chunk play, the big play over the top was what Sark kept trying to set up, and they would inevitably hit. This year, I think that advantage lies with the Aggies. I know that Sark's game plan with Arch is going to be get those athletes in space, but last year, A&M's secondary specifically, they could not cover the deep ball, right? They could not cover the middle of the field. This year, they've been very good at that. Now, they are going to give up a big play or two, right? You can take that to the bank. That's happened all year long. And I've heard from others, they believe that the secondary may not be as good, as bulletproof as what the numbers would indicate. A top 25 secondary. They've given up some big plays. They've missed some tackles, and that's certainly the key to a Texas victory here. But you talk about four quarters, and you talk about Texas or Texas A&M being more consistent over those four quarters. I think you guys have both outlined it. I just don't know that Texas has actually given us an example of how they do that. And now you're expecting them to do that on the biggest stage when they're trying to ruin a rival season. Oh, by the way, they're also playing for the continuation of their own season. It just feels like one team has matched the moment stride for stride every single week, and one of those teams has not. And so I'll take Texas A&M to win that game as well. Anxiety inducing. Have the Tums ready, not only because of what we've eaten, but because of what else may be going on. The acid reflux, I'm sure, is going to be undefeated this weekend.
One thing I want to say on this, though, I'm so glad that we're not live streaming directly after this game, because if we lost, it'd be miserable. And if we end up winning this game, we'd be miserable to view for several people. So it's I'm just glad that we get a day to digest this and not be totally insufferable depending on how this game goes.
Yeah, no doubt. Other games in that time slot, the battle for the old Oaken Bucket, Indiana, nearly 30-point favorites over hapless Purdue, and then the Territorial Cup, which should be a really good one. Arizona at Arizona State. Sparky's getting a point and a half here. Trey, you've been on the Arizona block here for the last couple of weeks. They could have a 9-win season if they're able to walk into Tempe and technically upset Arizona State. But no doubt, Brett Brennan, I think, has firmly removed himself from the hot seat. We'll see if the Wildcats can bear down and get a win over the Sun Devils.
Big implications just real quick in the Big 12 for that one, because if Arizona wins, it actually locks up BYU and Texas Tech before they even need to play on Saturday. So
love that.
That's something else to watch for in that one.
All right, let's go to Saturday morning and a game that a lot of people listening to this podcast are waiting for. Let's talk about the game. Ohio State at Michigan. The Buckeyes are 9.5-point favorites. Doesn't really get any bigger than this. Both teams have Big Ten championship aspirations and implications on the line. Both teams have college football playoff dreams on the line as well. The Buckeyes feel like they're completely locked into the college football playoff. I don't think losing to a ranked Michigan team, and then, I mean, at that point, they'd be excluded from the Big Ten championship. So Ohio State's in, right? Michigan needs to win this game to have a shot at getting to Indianapolis. And then they probably need to win that game. I don't know. We'll see. There's just so many other teams. It's difficult to take anything and set it in stone, even if they were to upset the number one team at home. Michigan has won 4 straight. That's the biggest talking point coming in. Michigan, against all the odds, despite being the lower ranked team in each of these 4 previous meetings, has found a way to beat Ohio State, including the most infamous of them all, last year's 3-point underdogs on the road. They go into the shoe and win that game. Now, of course, Ohio State gets the last laugh winning that national championship game, but I think it was a little bit of salve to the wound for Michigan, watching Ohio State celebrate, knowing, hey, yeah, we still beat the national champions. We're still 4-0 in the last 4 years against them. It will have been, 2,191 days since Ohio State has last celebrated a win in this rivalry game. So a couple storylines, guys, that I'm looking for here. 9.5-point favorites. I mentioned Ohio State. Their defense is barely giving up more than a field goal a game. They've been smothering. And I think that defense, that pressure, Arvell Reese helping to control the run game versus Jordan Marshall, Bryce Underwood, I think that's going to be a massive key for Ohio State on the road. On the other side, though, if Bryce Underwood is to find ways to score points to keep this Michigan team ahead of the chains, I think Andrew Marsh out wide is going to be a big story for the Wolverines. Him against this secondary for Ohio State is another one of those key X factors that I'm watching for. But with all of that being said, I think it's time. I think it's time. Ohio State's going to win this game. I will say I don't necessarily love laying the points. This game gets weird. It's as tightly contested as any rivalry game over these last couple of years that you can go find. So I think I'm inclined to take the points with a good defense at home. But quite frankly, guys, I don't know how Michigan scores consistently on Ohio State. It feels like if anybody's going to break that mold, you need to be balanced and versatile, both throwing the ball and running the ball. In the biggest moments, we've seen that Michigan passing game kind of dry up, right? And it's a young quarterback. It's Bryce Underwood. He's still got a lot to learn. He's made some strides, but literally against the best scoring defense in America, I don't know if Michigan's going to be able to consistently score. Can Ohio State consistently score? Well, we'll see. This is really the first big-time test that they've had since they played Texas all the way back in the opening week of the season. They scored 14 points. So, again, inclined to take the points here, 9.5. I'll take that candy, but I do think Ohio State gets this one done.
I guys, it's going to happen again. I don't know how else to say this. It's just gonna happen again. Michigan's gonna win. I'm picking them to win outright. I picked this game last year after that game already stopped, right? At the end of the Ohio State Michigan game last year, I picked Michigan to win this year because it's in the big house and because look, Ohio State fans, Joe, I can already hear you. I'm sorry, okay? I'm really am sorry, bud. But if you don't want me to pick the Wolverines in this game, Ohio State fans, stop losing the game. Just stop losing this game if you don't want me to pick the Wolverines, okay? Let me make the real case, not just the actual, off the field weird, just for the mojo, just for the juju type of case. This game being at the big house obviously helps, right? This is obviously an advantage for Michigan. Temperatures will be, kind of upper 20s, low 30s, possibility of snow in this one. So, that's obviously a tough environment for an Ohio State team that clearly passes the ball primarily. Run game's been a little bit better, but they passed the ball primarily here. My big question on Ohio State is, have they really been tested this year? I think looking back to what Texas was in week one, it's pretty clear they're not the same Texas team, right? Texas getting better is making Ohio State look better, but I don't think that Texas team was very ready to play them week one. I don't think a lot of their team was ready to play them week one. And they still only won it by 7. What really is Ohio State's best win this year? Is it like Illinois or I guess Washington on the road was a pretty tough one? Maybe Penn State because they beat them bad. I'm just not really sure what the best win is for Ohio State and why I'm supposed to be super impressed. I know that Illinois seems like a good win, but they just got smoked by Wisconsin, so I guess we're just not going to bring that little part up. Again, I said it, the run game has been a little bit better, but Michigan's got a really good run defense. They're going to force you to beat them in the air, and this will be the toughest environment for Julian Sand by far. He has not played in a stadium like the Big House that has been angry at him, right? Obviously, the shoe is great, but that's his home field advantage, right? He gets to do that. When it's on the road, it's the Big House, it's the cold temperatures, no real run game probably to speak of. Can he get it done? I can absolutely see a world where the performance drops for Julian Sand. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to do really well, kind of overall throughout his career, through the rest of the playoffs, whatever it is. But this is a tough spot for any good quarterback to try to play in. And look, if you look at Michigan's side, they lost a tough game at Oklahoma. They won a hard-fought game at Nebraska. They lost at USC. These are much tougher spots than what Ohio State has seen. And when you think about what this Michigan team has been through, with Bryce Underwood trying to figure it out. You got the Andrew March experiment that started to kind of work for them. You think about the multitude of running backs that have been in and out with injuries and everything else. They've just found a way to kind of rally together and win. And they've just found ways to get it done no matter what the consequences, no matter what the stakes. They've just found ways to get it done. I think that's probably what happens here, right? They've been more tested. They've been in tougher spots. They get their home crowd behind them. Look, again, maybe it's just because, they haven't beaten them in so long. Maybe it's just because I can't trust Ohio State to actually win this game. It's a feeling. It's a vibe. It's great to be a Michigan Wolverine. Okay, that's what I'm going to say on that one. I'm picking Michigan one more time. If there's not really a great reason for it, I don't care. Just win this game one time, Ohio State. You haven't won it since we've had the podcast. So maybe win this game once in the time that we've been doing this, and then I'll start to think about you more seriously on the last week of the season.
I've picked Ohio State every single year, I think, that we've had this show. And going back before we had this show and when the streak started, I thought Ohio State was going to beat Michigan that year. And, man, it's been a long time. Ohio State fans, I don't have to remind you of that. It's been a long time. And to your point, Garrett, about being tested, every single game since week 3 has been at least 3 scores. Or sorry, I said 3. Every single game except week 1 has been by at least 3 scores. I apologize for that. I had 3 in my brain. But since week 1 against Texas, it's been all 3-score games or more. How are they going to deal with a rock fight? Because I think there's strong rock fight potential. And obviously we saw them beat Texas in a rock fight. That was in a lot better conditions. You mentioned the weather, chilly temperatures, possible snow. They're going to need to rely on a run game. Bo Jackson has looked really, really good. I'm glad that they're finally kind of relying on him, letting him be the dude, it seems like. But if you're going to nitpick Ohio State, it's the short yardage running situation, right? It's the situational run game. That was the same issue they had last year that they found a way to overcome as the playoffs wore on. But that has been their issue, especially in these games against Michigan. It's been the situational run game. Yeah, they have amazing wide receivers that can run really fast, but in the elements in a game in borderline December against Michigan, you got to be able to run the football. So I'm going to take Michigan to cover this spread. I'm going to fall on the sword again and say Ohio State wins the game. They're going to find a way. They have to find a way to win this game. They cannot lose. I've said it every year, but I feel like they can't lose 2 years in a row as double-digit favorites. So I think they find a way to win. I think they end the season undefeated, but Michigan's going to cover the spread, and it is going to be very, very uncomfy for the Buckeyes. So I love what Michigan's doing. I think they're very gettable through the air, though, and they've played some really bad pass defenses to help their cause. Ohio State's wide receiver room is banged up. They were without Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate last week, but if those guys are healthy, they have to make enough plays. At some point, this just has to – we can't, as a college football ecosystem, exist where Michigan beats Ohio State 5 times in a row, can we?
We're going to say the same thing next year when we say it can't be 6 years in a row. Come on.
Well, and before Michigan
– because it's going to be the same situation. Ohio State will have no excuse with Julian Sain in his second year as a starter, and they'll probably –
there really isn't a great reason for it. But, get the monkey off your back. You can't do it.
Well, before Michigan reeled off these last 4, I think Ohio State had won the last 8 or 9 in a row, right? So, I mean, it's been a streaky series as of late. One fan base just, enjoying the fruits of their labor, and the other one wandering aimlessly in the wilderness a little bit. So Ohio State would like to end that streak. We'll see if they can get it done. Other games in this time slot, Trey, there's one big one. When you look at the ACC, it's Miami at Pitt. 33 degrees allegedly at kickoff. When we did the ACC preview, we circled this game and said, boy, if Miami has to go to a frigid Pittsburgh at the end of November with an ACC championship berth on the line, which Miami has even fewer odds than Georgia Tech to get in. I mean, they need all the help in the world, but step one is win this game in Pitt. It's not looking very likely. Miami's 6.5-point favorites. Dare I say the wrong team might be favored given this spot?
Man, that's shots fired at Miami, man. What? They've looked better the last few weeks since they hit their lowest low against SMU, and they've looked better since then against, albeit much less lower competition. This is going to be a step back up in competition. Yeah. This is where we've seen them stumble a couple of times. Very similar situation to the Syracuse game last year. A solid ACC team, one that's a lot. I think Syracuse was already eliminated from contention at that point for the championship, but a championship adjacent team, right? Like maybe a step below that tier. And they go up on the road the last week of the season with their playoff lives on the line, and they laid an egg, and there was no excuse for it. But Syracuse did what Pitt's going to try to do. I think Pitt covers the spread. I really do. The memories of what Notre Dame did just 2 weeks ago are kind of burned into my brain, but I think that they're physical enough. I still believe in Pitt, and I think that they're going to find a way to get this one done and at least cover the spread and have a really good chance to win, especially with championship implications.
Yeah, we'll see who's healthy for Pitt, but if it's cold, I don't know if there's any precip in the forecast. Like a big question for Miami would be, how did they handle the pass rush from Pitt, and how do they get Malachi Toney the ball, right? Because if just slinging it all over the yard suddenly isn't an option, well, then Miami's going to have to get creative. And Shannon Dawson's one of the best in the country. I think he could get it done, but tough, physical, fast team on the road, not where I want to be if my team has their backs up against the wall. As we mentioned, Pitt has a much better chance of getting to the ACC championship game, statistically at least, with a win. Miami needs all kinds of help.
Do we know if Pitt sees this game as a must-win?
I think that would be. That's fair.
My big question I want to know: do they think this is a must-win game? Because we know that it is.
I think we checked that box.
That.
Elsewhere in the time slot, the Governor's Cup, Battle for Bluegrass, whatever you want to call it, Kentucky at Louisville. This game, I think only the people in the Bluegrass state care about it, because it might be
very
really
interested
ugly
to
football.
see if Kentucky can get the win. I think they can. I'm taking Kentucky outright.
I think they can too. Louisville looks so hapless. They said Miller Moss was out last week against SMU. I don't know if we ever validated if it was an actual injury or if it was just kind of loser's limp to be quite honest. Maybe he's really hurt, and that sounds insensitive. I don't know, but the way that Moss addressed the media after their loss to Cal didn't inspire any confidence in me. I didn't have any confidence in him in the first place, but that's neither here nor there. Texas Tech can salt away their berth in the Big 12 championship game with a win over West Virginia. They're 20.5-point favorites in Morgantown. UCF at BYU. Guys, I wrote in our primer, UCF has found some sort of offensive form. They've been a little bit dangerous as of late, but they're 0-4 and getting shellacked on the road. So I don't expect anything less. BYU, 18.5-point favorites in that one. Houston at Baylor. Dave Aranda's back for another year. I'm so sorry, Baylor fans. Houston trying to kind of end their season on a positive note. They lost in kind of depressing fashion, 17-14 last week to TCU. Took a little bit of air out of the balloon of what otherwise has been a phenomenal season for Willie Fritz. And then Western Kentucky at Jacksonville State. Trey, are there Conference USA title game implications on the line here?
Yeah, massive implications. There's only 3 teams alive, and 2 of them are Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State. So the winner of this one is in. The loser will be looking at what Kennesaw State does, but more on that in a bit.
Okay. Let's kind of let's group these Saturday afternoon games, shall we? We've got Oregon -6.5 at Washington. You've got Vanderbilt at Tennessee. The Vols, surprisingly, favored in that one. LSU's at Oklahoma. The Sooners are 10.5-point favorites. And then we'll dust off some of the other games in the time slot. Trey, which of those 3 games in the afternoon window catches your attention?
Oh, it's got to be Vandy, Tennessee, because I did some very quick research this afternoon, guys. Someone can correct me from the state of Tennessee that would know this a little bit better. I think this is the first ever top 25 matchup in this rivalry.
No way.
As long as they have been playing, they have never both been ranked at the top 25 at the same time and met up. Vandy still has a shot at the college football playoff at large with a win. They're going to be in that group at 10-2, and it's just going to be picking names out of a hat. I feel like whatever win the committee decides is what they want to go with this year, but they're going to be right in the thick of things if they can win this one. Tennessee fighting for a 9-win season against all odds, I would say, in the preseason. I don't think a lot of people expected this to go as well as it has. There's been bumps in the road, obviously, but this would be a really nice cherry on top of the season for the Vols if they can get it done and have a shot at 10 wins in a bowl game.
I love that. Tennessee is looking for their first ranked win of the season. Their 3 losses have all come against their ranked opponents.
If you follow the discourse on Twitter of college football.
Would love to see Diego Pavia inject a little bit of Pavia mania back in. They got embarrassed last year at home by the Vols, but I don't know. I just don't know if Tennessee can answer the bell against a much more physical Vanderbilt team than even what we saw last year, right? Last year it was kind of razzle dazzle and a lot of motion and trickeration. This year, Vanderbilt has been winning games in the trenches. They've absolutely held up there. I kind of like Vanderbilt plus the 2.5 here. I think that the Doors keep their chance to be that 6th possible SEC team in the playoff field alive. So yeah, let's go anchor down.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go the same direction. Also because Vanderbilt's found multiple ways to win. It's not like kind of last year, it felt like it was Diego Pavia or nothing, right? It's just if he can find a way to win and, kind of air it out, do his thing. But they won close games, right? They won, Missouri close, in kind of a low scoring game. They beat Auburn in an overtime game where points were at plenty. They've blown people out. So they've been a good team finding different ways to win. I think that's probably what helps them here is that it doesn't matter what style of game they have to play. I think they know that they can play that against Tennessee and find a way to win. So, yeah, I like Vanderbilt in this spot.
Pavia wants that Heisman too, y'all. He had over 500 yards of total.
His mom wants it more, but that's the separate thing.
His mom might want it more than he does, but yeah, they're going to be. If he can get a big win, I mean, he's got to be at least invited to New York, so that's got to be in the back of his mind as well.
A couple of notes on the Oregon-Washington game. Oregon 6.5-point favorites at Washington. Trey, you've made the point that Oregon really needs to win this game to feel like they're in the playoff for sure, right? To leave no doubt, to put it out of the committee's hands, win this game, win on the road. The Huskies, on the other hand, if they beat Oregon, they could get to 9 wins, which, I mean, raise your hand if you mentally calculated Washington as a 9-win team after all the bumps and hurdles with a loss to Wisconsin on the schedule. I mean, it's just been kind of a wild journey to get here. Washington has been much better at home than on the road, which is huge for the Huskies' chances here. The Huskies are 5-1 within the friendly confines. They're averaging 40.5 points a game, while they're 3-2 on the road, and they scored just 7 against Michigan, just 10 against Wisconsin. So getting them at home certainly helps. I do wonder, though, if what we saw from Oregon last week, both with the ability to score points in bunches, to force turnovers, to be more physical in the line of scrimmage, the physicality has given Washington trouble this year, especially as they played kind of those opponents that are more worth their salt, Wisconsin notwithstanding. Although I guess now they have 2 top 25 matchups, 2 wins to their name. So I lean Oregon here. I just need a touchdown to get home. So I'm going to take Oregon minus the points on the road.
Yeah, I like Oregon in this one as well. I've been kind of hanging with them this season, tried to, maybe slightly sidestep off the bandwagon, but I'm going to jump right back on and pretend that I never left. And yeah, I'm just going to stick with Oregon on this one. I think they've been really good, and they're looking like they've been playing a lot better recently. Lovell did it against USC. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the Ducks.
I'm in on Oregon now. I've been out and I've been waiting on them to kind of show me something against a legitimate team. I like USC this year, and they looked really good against USC. So I'm in on Oregon. I think they get the dub. And yeah, like you said, Mitch, 10-2 is not safe. They need to win this game to make sure that they're safely in. Gotta be 11-1 to feel really good.
Yeah, Ducks defense has just looked really solid at multiple points this year. The offense continues to improve, check boxes. I think Dante Moore has certainly been very, very solid this season. He's made some absolutely NFL caliber throws. So you need a guy to go win you a playoff game to maybe win a Big Ten championship. They are very much alive for that as well. Dante Moore seems like he could get that done. LSU at Oklahoma, just very quickly pick against the spread. The Sooners 10.5-point favorites. It seems like Garrett Nussmeier's career at LSU is done. He's dealing with an ab injury, so it'll be Michael Van Buren. That is an LSU offense that put up just 13 at home on the senior day against Western Kentucky. There's no way that LSU hangs around in this one, right?
I don't think so. I think Oklahoma wins this one going away, makes a big statement in their last opportunity for the committee. I think Oklahoma might win this one by 20, guys. It could get really ugly for LSU.
Yeah, Trey, I'm right there with you. I think it's statement time. I think it's time to blow some people out and leave a really good taste in the committee's mouth. That's just kind of what I think they have to be. And LSU, I mean, at this point, they're thinking about Lane Kiffin as much as Lane Kiffin's thinking about Lane Kiffin over there in Oxford. So I don't think that they're probably locked in on this one very much. They're definitely thinking towards the future. I don't know how many guys on this team are going to be on the team next year, how many portal players there tend to be. I don't know, but I don't think that LSU is locked in for this one. I'm going to pick Oklahoma by a bunch.
Yeah, quickly, other games in the time slot. Troy at Southern Miss. They're playing for the winner of the Sun Belt West title. What a novel concept, having divisions and local matchups. And Troy and Southern Miss, basically a one-game playoff to go to the Sun Belt Championship. Love that. Southern Miss favored by 6.5. Paul Bunyan's axe between Wisconsin and Minnesota is in this time slot. Who had Penn State at Rutgers playing for bowl eligibility this late in the season? Winner gets to 6 wins. The loser, I guess, is Team 1-2-3 Cancun. I don't know what you do if you're from Piscataway or Happy Valley for that matter. I'm not used to Penn State missing bowl games right now. But yeah, winner bowl eligible there. Wake Forest at Duke. Trey, Wake Forest can get to 9 wins, just as you dreamed and pontificated at the beginning of this year. I mean, even this, I think, has been better than what you could have expected. James Madison, 21.5-point favorites at Coastal. Obviously, their playoff live still on the line. And then UCLA at USC, which I don't think anybody really cares about other than the color matchup with those jerseys. Maybe the best looking football matchup on a yearly basis. I think more rivalry games should be home jersey versus home jersey. Can we all co-sign that?
100%.
Yes?
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, thumbs up in the chat. We like that. Oh, and then the Sunshine Showdown, Florida State at Florida. Not good football here. Florida State has to win it to be bowl eligible. I would be lying if I said I knew what Florida's record is. Can
I think
they go to a bowl
like
game?
3 wins. I don't think they can make it to a bowl game.
They're 3-8. They cannot
go
bowling. yeah, this is the 1-2-3 Cancun Bowl, right?
Sure.
Or this, I don't know if they're good enough for Cancun. It might be a Charles Barkley drive your ass to Galveston situation.
Dirty water.
whatever the worst beach and whatever the Florida equivalent of Galveston is. I don't know if they have that over
Dirty
there,
water
but
down there.
oh, it's rough. I
Mark,
guess Mike Norvell wants the extra practices. That might be
he's back.
He's
back
coming
for
back
26
next year, apparently.
Yeah.
Because
Congrats.
you know what you should do when your offense and defense are both in the top 30 and you're 5-6, you should 100% keep that head coach. He's right there.
Yeah, no doubt. I think a lot of blame falls on the shoulders of Mike Norvell. Probably buyout money that's keeping Florida State from doing that right now. All right, let's talk Iron Bowl Saturday night. Boy, I hate it for Alabama fans that this game is at night. You talk about activating the Jordan-Hare voodoo. Throw it under the lights with a desperate Auburn team that can ruin Alabama's season, can very likely end their season, right? With a win, Alabama goes to the SEC title game. They stay alive to make the playoff. With a loss, I think we sprint to the message boards to see what folks are saying about one Kalen DeBoer, right? So Alabama's just a 5.5-point favorite here. Garrett, let's start with you. Can you dream Auburn to a victory after what we saw Deuce Knight do for that offense last week against, albeit Mercer?
I don't think it has to be a dream to get him to a victory. I think there's a pretty obvious path to victory for him. I don't think that they're going to win, but I will take him plus the 5.5 to keep it real close. Okay. I think if the Kentucky game didn't happen, aren't we thinking about this game differently for Auburn? Like they've been scoring a lot more points recently, and it seems like they've been winning some games a lot better. Obviously, Kentucky game happened, so we got to keep that one in there. But I mean, Alabama still can't run the football. They just can't. I don't know what the deal is with that. Auburn has the number 2 rushing defensive success rate, right behind Oklahoma, if you were curious. So they're right up there in terms of what they can do defensively to try to affect a game. Don't ask the Bama fans how that game went against Oklahoma and how
It's
their
your
offense
rock fight formula.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, you've seen
Right?
this one before.
It seems like we've seen this thing before. Did y'all see Deuce Knight? I mean, come on. He had 401 total yards and 6 total touchdowns. I get that it was Mercer. Okay, I understand that. But it happened. That's not nothing. It was fun. He had like 18 yards a carry or something like that. It's ridiculous stuff. Now, he may not be the starter. If he's not, it's coaching malpractice. I have no
saw
idea
an
why you
article
would
today that said it's going to be Ashton Daniels. So
see, that's
Oh,
coaching
that's
malpractice, and that's
gross.
exactly why Durkin won't be the head coach next year. But I digress. Look, even if he's not, I think if you get off to a slow start, I think you probably got to find a way to put him in after how exciting he was. I mean, come on, give him a chance to play in this one. I don't really believe in Auburn. The big difference on their defense between them and Oklahoma really is that their pass defense struggles, whereas Oklahoma does really well. That's kind of the way that Oklahoma got it done, is their pass defense could stand up against Alabama. Don't think that Auburn's in the same category with them there. I'm not calling them to pull the upset, but OU just pulled the upset with only 138 passing yards out of Mateer and just 79 total rushing yards. They didn't even do that well on offense, and they pulled it off. Give me some craziness. Give me a little Auburn, voodoo, Jordan-Hare late at night. Give me some voodoo just to keep this one crazy at the end of it. Last second field goal, weird punt return block type of situation. Give me a legendary moment to finish this game off as well. Nothing's going to touch kick 6, but give me something like that to finish this one off. I think I'm going to pick Bama to win. I don't like it. I'm going to hold my nose while I pick Bama to win because it feels stinky, but I'm going to do it. But Auburn keeps it close.
Trey, just to set the stage real fast before you give your pick, I was doing all this research for that primer article, and I was stunned to see that for all the talk about Auburn and Alabama and how this game is on pins and needles every single year, and there's voodoo and Jordan-Hare, and that Auburn always just pulls a rabbit out of their hat. It really is only to make the game close. They don't actually win this game. They've only won 3 times since their national championship season in 2010. Like they activate the acid reflux for those in Tuscaloosa, but they don't actually win this game. So to me, it kind of feels like we're right on pace for, another classic Iron Bowl where Auburn scares the bejesus out of the Crimson Tide fans, but Alabama ultimately wins the game. I'd love to have your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 years in a row or 2 times in a row at Jordan-Hare that it's taken absolute heroics from Alabama to grasp victory from the jaws of defeat, right? Like we all remember 2023 with the, 4th and 39.
4th and Milrow.
Yeah, 4th and Milrow.
4th and 31, I think, was the official down and distance.
Yeah, it just insane, absolutely iconic college football play. Back in 2021, things were not looking good for Alabama either. They needed a pretty big fourth quarter effort, if I recall correctly. Those last two times, it's been by a combined 5 points. Those last two times in Jordan Hare. So there's strong close game potential, but I can't believe I'm doing this. I think Bama wins this by 8 points. I think Bama's going to win and cover.
8?
I think like a 28-20 situation.
Okay.
I think something like that. I think Auburn's able to move the ball. Ashton Daniels, I know y'all scoffed at him because he's not Deuce Knight. He's not a 5-star, but Ashton Daniels looked really stinking good against Vanderbilt the last time he was out. It's the type of quarterback that can give Alabama trouble, right? It's the Tommy Castellanos formula. It's the John Mateer formula, moving the ball with the legs, extending drives. The reason I think Alabama wins this game is because I think Oklahoma earned that game with their defense. But if you line it up and play it again with the same style, Alabama wins that game the majority of the time. And we're not really having this conversation about the Iron Bowl, I don't think. You mentioned if the Kentucky game for Auburn turned out differently, Garrett. If you just flip like maybe 2 plays in that Oklahoma game, we're not even like featuring this Iron Bowl. Yeah. We're kind of already penciling Alabama into the SEC championship. I think we're sharpieing Alabama into the SEC championship at that point and sharpieing them into the playoff in all likelihood. So there's no room for funny business. We can't mess around and throw a couple interceptions. We can't yell at our long snapper because the snap wasn't perfect and we shanked a field goal. We can't have all this nonsense that caused the loss to Oklahoma. There's no room for funny business in Jordan Hare. But surely Ty Simpson and those receivers can make plays against this Auburn secondary, right? Like surely they can make enough plays to have Alabama pull away just a little bit in the fourth quarter, right? Like that's been the formula for Alabama all year long, has been knowing they don't have a very good run game and getting enough through the passing game. And this kind of sets up that way. Oklahoma had a better passing defense, and that's why they were able to not allow Alabama to use that formula. I don't know that Auburn has the secondary to beat Alabama at what they want to do offensively. So give me Alabama to cover. I hate it's just making me throw up in my mouth to pick that, because everything in me as a college football fan wants Auburn to win this game just to see what happens. I want Auburn to win this game so badly just to see what happens. Do we get Kalen DeBoer to Penn State, or do they just trade coaches? Does Lane Kiffin go to Tuscaloosa and Kalen DeBoer goes over to Oxford? I don't know, but we'll see. I'm really excited to watch this one. I love that this is kind of what we're building to this entire week, and we get to just cap it off with a night game at Jordan Hare. What more could you ask for in rivalry week?
Yeah, it turns out rooting for Auburn is a lot more palatable experience when Hugh Freeze isn't the head coach. They should have thought of that a long time ago.
It really is. It's a lot more fun to cheer for Auburn when they don't have a slime ball and wannabe pro golfer in the head coaching booth.
I will say, I think this is going to sound like the most obvious thing I've ever said on this show, so hang with me. I think we learn if Alabama is an actual title contender in this game or not, right? Like if they can go in on the road and handle business and win by more than 5.5 points, depending on how that looks, I think you're willing to chalk up that Oklahoma loss as, okay, well, the ball bounced, a couple of bad ways, you turned the ball over, you had a bad snap, etc. You lost the game against Oklahoma. But if you go out and win and make a statement against Auburn in state to finish the season, to punch your ticket to Atlanta, then maybe you start to have a little bit more confidence about Alabama raising an SEC championship, going into the playoff with a lot of steam, being a contender for that final team to stand there. If it takes another heroics, if it takes another 4th and Milrow, because Alabama is so one-dimensional and the defense sometimes is a little bit cheeseclothy, then I don't know. I'm starting to think about erasing Alabama as, even a contender in the back half of my brain. They did not make my championship contender list. I had 6 teams over on our Substack, if you want to go read that article, that I believe can win the national championship. Alabama wasn't one of those. And so, I've kind of already moved them to that B category, I guess they have a chance to maybe climb up to that A tier with an impressive win against Auburn for all those reasons, but we'll see what happens. The Commonwealth Cup is also happening on Saturday night. Virginia Tech at Virginia. I think Virginia's only won this game like, what, 2 or 3 times, maybe just twice since the year 2000. It's not a lot of success against the Hokies over the last quarter of a century. But they are into the ACC title game with a win. So, I mean, shout out Tony Elliott and the Who's, Chandler Morris for really getting things done. Virginia could be a 10-win team, all things considered, by the time this dust settles. Other games in the time slot with relevance, and Trey, I think you're about to walk through a lot of these. So SMU at Cal, Justin Wilcox fired by Cal after that bludgeoning in the game against Stanford. Charlotte at Tulane. Tulane 30.5-point favorites. They should not stub their toe against a Charlotte team that really can't do much of anything. But Tulane with a win is into the American championship game, I believe, if I'm correct on that.
Yeah, as long as I think the way the American does it is the computer rankings thing. So the 3-way tie gets a little interesting, but I don't see a reality where they're not one of the top 2 in that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the math definitely comes up in favor of Tulane there. North Carolina and NC State. The national media was counting out bowl-bound Bill after they lost that 7th game of the season. But Trey, as you point out, they're the highest APR team, so we could get in off good old academics, even at 5-7. How about that?
Can we just talk about how funny it is that North Carolina, of all places, has the highest academic progress rating with the history at that school under previous administration?
That's fair. That's a good point. Although, was that including the football team, or was that mostly the basketball team?
I think it was mostly basketball, but it's still just hilarious to think about.
Yeah, we're talking about fake classes. If you're unaware, North Carolina had basically a fake class program back in the day to help athletes keep their GPAs.
I don't know what. Yeah, I mean
levels.
Every football player has a 4.0 at North Carolina, and it's all like, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich 101, and just some really hard hitting classes over there.
Listen, some of those exist in the College of Liberal Arts. All right, you and I should know that as a fact. So, Fremont Cannon,
avid listener and friend of the show. I don't want to throw his name out there without his permission. He has a beer making competition tomorrow for one of his classes at A&M. So that's really fun.
Sick. There you go. Fremont Cannon Trophy, UNLV at Nevada. Kind of a small line for that. 8.5 in favor of the Rebs. Nevada has somewhat put the offense together. They scored 55 on, I think it was San Jose State the other day? They had a big offensive explosion just not too long ago. And then Notre Dame, nearly 33-point favorites at Stanford. The kick is 10:30 Eastern. Stanford, after scoring a bunch of points against Cal, has kind of the chance to do the funniest thing ever. And while most of y'all go to sleep after a long weekend, they can eliminate Notre Dame from playoff contention. So that's fun. That is all of our game breakdowns. Really appreciate you guys listening to this point in the episode. Hope you guys are as excited as we are. Trey, I want to turn it over to you and let you facilitate any sort of conversation here as you run us through what you have titled the Conference Championship Scenario Palooza. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, this is for the real sickos. So we would love if you don't want to listen to this, just turn the volume down, because we love the engagement number to go all the way through the episode. So, but if you are interested, if you are just want to nerd out with us and you love conference championships because you love college football, here's the scenarios. We didn't want to bog down the game previews with this, but I kind of broke this down into, there's like, what happens if chalk, all the favorites win, who's still alive, and then what's the chaos scenario? Because I know the real sickos want to know what the chaos scenario is here. So we'll start in the SEC, I should say, because it's more straightforward. Chalk is A&M versus Alabama. If all the favorites win, A&M is going to take on Alabama. There's 4 teams still alive: A&M, Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss. The percentages, I can go through them if you guys want, if you have any questions about them. There was one site on the whole internet that I could find that had % chance to make the conference championship game, and it was playoffstatus.com. I have no idea the legitimacy of that website
Shout
or their
out
mathematical formula or anything like that. So those are just for fun. All the other websites were to win the conference. I wasn't really interested in that. But A&M's win and you're in. Alabama is win and you're in. For Georgia and Ole Miss, Georgia needs either A&M or Alabama to lose, and Ole Miss needs A&M and Alabama to lose. So it's pretty straightforward there. Texas A&M cannot play Ole Miss because they need Ole Miss needs A&M to lose, but A&M could play Georgia or Alabama. And I think Ole Miss, can only play Georgia. So that's where we're at in the SEC. We good there? Any questions?
All straightforward. I'm
Yeah,
with you so far.
Y'all stop me if we need to slow things down or we have any questions. In the Big Ten, the chalk scenarios, Ohio State, Indiana, both of them are win and in. Obviously, Indiana, very high chance to be playing. But if they do stub their toe against Purdue as like 30-point favorites, if Oregon and Michigan lose, they can still get in. Ohio State's winning in, and if Indiana and Oregon lose, they also get in. Michigan needs a loss by Oregon or Indiana, in addition to their win over Ohio State. And then Oregon needs a win and a loss by either Ohio State or Indiana. So lots of fun scenarios there. The chaos scenario, there wasn't really a chaos scenario in the SEC. I guess it's if Ole Miss gets in because that's a lot of losses. But the chaos scenario in the Big Ten is a 4-way tie at 8-1. So if Michigan, Oregon, and Purdue all win, that would mean that Oregon and Michigan play for the Big Ten title. That's kind of fun.
Gross. Yeah, that you talk about a lot of people needing to resell tickets on the secondhand market. That's the matchup right there.
I think the good people of the Indianapolis Convention and Visitors Bureau can probably count on a local team being there with the fact that Indiana's playing Purdue. But hey, rivalry week, anything can happen, right? We can just kick an old Oaken bucket over and crazy.
Come on, Barry, get her done, baby.
Okay, now we get into the fun ones because the Big 12, it is very, very straightforward on the surface. And shout out to the Big 12 for having a tiebreaker central page on their official conference website. That is super helpful for people like me. BYU and Texas Tech, they are both almost or over 20-point favorites in their games this week. If they take care of business, or if Arizona beats Arizona State on Friday night before either of those teams take the field, it's going to be BYU versus Texas Tech. The other two teams that are still alive are Utah and Arizona State. Utah needs to win and have Tech lose and have wins. This is weird, but wins by BYU and Arizona State. So they need to cheer for teams that they're being compared with here. Arizona State needs to win and have losses by two of the three of BYU, Tech, and Utah. The chaos scenario here, if either Utah or Arizona State get in, that'd be pretty chaotic because it means West Virginia and UCF or UCF won. But again, everything can be sewn up Friday night if Arizona wins. If Arizona wins Friday, it just kind of ruins Saturday in the Big 12, makes it meaningful for playoff. But yeah.
So just to be clear, if you are Utah, well, no, if you're BYU and Texas Tech, you're rooting for Arizona.
Yes.
Because then you get in automatically. If you're Utah, your great hope is Jeff Sims.
Absolutely.
That's gross.
Absolutely. Let's go to the ACC because this is where it gets really, really fun, guys. The doomsday scenario that we like to talk about, it is not dead. We thought it was dead when Duke lost to Virginia by a lot of points a couple weeks ago. The ACC doomsday scenario is alive and well. It is not likely. Let me just start there. And I don't necessarily see a world where it happens, but it is not dead and we got to talk about it. So the chalk is SMU versus Virginia. And right now, SMU, at least we don't know the playoff rankings for Tuesday night yet, but SMU was not ranked by the committee last week. And JMU was not either, so we don't know where JMU stands in relation to SMU, but you're talking about maybe a 12-1 team versus a 3-loss SMU team if they get it done in Charlotte. So maybe even with SMU, is that a doomsday scenario? I don't know. So much to think about. But chalk is SMU versus Virginia. They are by far the most likely. They are in win and in scenarios. I think there's like one very weird scenario where Pitt could get in over SMU even with a win, but I don't think it's really worth discussing just the way tiebreakers work. There's also a back channel way for Virginia and SMU to get in with a lot of losses by other teams. Pitt can get in by winning and a loss by SMU or Virginia. So that's where it's straightforward. Here's where it gets off the rails. So y'all stop me if you need me to say something again. Georgia Tech, like we mentioned earlier, still alive. Here's what they need. They don't have an ACC game this week. They're in the clubhouse at 6-2. They need to SMU and Virginia to lose to get them to 6-2. And then they need either Duke or Pitt to lose. I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility, guys. Duke's not very good. Pitt's playing Miami. SMU has to go all the way to Cal. And who knows how that team is feeling after firing Justin Wilcox. And then Virginia Tech is a rivalry game. So I don't know. The dream's not dead for your rambling wreck. We'll see. Miami is the funniest one to me. They need to win. They need a loss by Virginia and a win by Wake, or an NC State win and an SMU loss and wins by Wake. And I guess I put NC State in twice. So there's some really funky...
They need something from NC State. We don't know what it is.
I don't know why NC State's in there, but that was added in the site that I found. And then
Wolfpack fans.
Duke still has a 3% chance to get to Charlotte, guys. Through it all, they are 6-5.
Four-loss Duke team, for the record.
5.
Right?
They're 5 losses now.
Oh, wow. Goodness.
3 of them are out of conference, though. So it is a 2-loss in the ACC Duke team currently. They need to win, and they need Pitt to lose. So they need to win. They need to cheer for Miami. And they need either SMU to lose or NC State and Virginia to lose. So
okay,
there you have it with the ACC. I don't know. The chaos scenario for me, we could get Georgia Tech versus Miami if Miami wins and SMU and Virginia crap the bed and Wake beats Duke. We could also get Miami versus Duke, and I think that's the funniest possible outcome for me. You just do the same scenario. So to get Miami versus Duke, you need Miami to win, obviously. You need Duke to win. You need SMU and Virginia to lose. And you need, I guess, Duke to win. That's how you get Duke versus Miami.
There is a legitimate world. I think if you had a 5-loss Duke team win the ACC championship, you'd have to leave them out, right?
100%. Yeah. I'm asking the question with SMU. Like, I'm asking the legitimate question with SMU.
Not entirely wrong, yeah.
But the ACC, there's a lot of very interesting scenarios with the ACC. The cleanest is SMU and Virginia, or I think what the ACC would probably prefer if you gave their boardroom truth serum is SMU maybe finds a way to lose to Cal, and it's Pitt versus Virginia. So at least it's a ranked-on-ranked matchup next week in Charlotte, but there's some messy situations.
It's really funny given the backdrop of the ACC running commercials, kind of SEC adjacent. Think back to like the "It Just Means More," right? Commercials, but all these spots with, the ACC has the best quarterbacks and the best teams and the best competition, and here we are talking about a mathematical chance for 5-loss Duke to be your king. Like that's pretty hilarious to me.
I love it.
Run down through the American, I guess we've got the American, the MAC, and then the Mountain West and Sun Belt. So yeah, run through those. Oh, and Conference USA. We've got the G5.
We got the G5. I'll go a little quicker through the G5, but sickos, you're staying with us. Really appreciate it. Chalk would be North Texas at Tulane. Remember, the American hosts it on campus. So Tulane, if they win, they are in and they host. There's not really a possible scenario where that doesn't happen. North Texas is in if they win, and they will host if Tulane loses. Navy needs a win and a loss by either Tulane or North Texas, and they could host if both of them lose. So that's the very simple scenario. The chaos scenario here: South Florida and East Carolina are technically still alive. We could get a 5-way tie at 6-2. Could I interest you guys in that in the American?
Sure.
That would mean. Listen, it would mean Charlotte gets their second win of the year and first against an FBS opponent over Tulane. Temple would need to beat UNT. Memphis would need to beat Navy. USF over Rice, and ECU over Florida Atlantic. Then we get the computer rankings, and we get to see who the computer spits out for 2. I think that would be fun.
That you talk about, for all the people that want to go back to the BCS and the drama of the computer ranking, like here you are. Let's see what happens.
You could get it this week in the G5. You could get your fill of that in the G5.
Good value or great value BCS in the American.
Absolutely. Conference USA, Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, and Jacksonville State are the ones that are alive. Missouri State's not eligible, unfortunately, for the Conference USA championship. Kennesaw is in. If they win, they're playing Liberty this week, who is not bowl eligible. That's one of the more shocking under the radar storylines in all of college football this year. They could host if Western Kentucky wins against Jacksonville State, but the winner of Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State is in. The loser will need to cheer for Liberty. So we'll get a rematch if Liberty wins. If Kennesaw State wins there in the championship, which fantastic story there as well. Huge turnaround for Kennesaw State this year.
And real fast, which team did you say wasn't eligible for the championship game?
Missouri State.
And who said in the preseason that Missouri State had a chance to be up towards the top of the conference?
You did. And guess what? I was in on Delaware, and they have a chance to get to 6 wins this week. I think
that's right. And Delaware looked like the better of those two teams for the majority of the year, and then they've kind of forgotten how to play defense in the second half of the season. So there was a world where we were both kind of right. And anyway, it's been fascinating to watch those teams adjust. Anyway, continue.
They're going to be right in the thick of bowl contention next year. Sure. So that's awesome. The MAC I'm going to go through really quickly, and even I didn't have the brain capacity to figure all this out earlier. The simple part is Western Michigan is in if they win against Eastern on Tuesday. So we could have one spot locked up as soon as Tuesday night. We currently have a 4-way tie for second with Toledo, Ohio, Central Michigan, and Miami of Ohio. So we're just going to spit those in. We're going to see what happens on Friday and Saturday with those 4 teams. 2 of them play each other. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Western Michigan has the clearest path there. In the Mountain West, the chalk is San Diego State hosts Boise State. We still have 5 teams alive, theoretically. San Diego State's win or losses by Boise and UNLV. Boise State kind of has the second best chance. They need to win and cheer for San Diego State to get the rematch there. New Mexico, if they win and Boise State loses, they would host the title game in Jason Eck's first year. That's just a fantastic nugget for the Lobos. UNLV is alive as well. They need to win, and they need San Diego State to beat New Mexico and Utah State to beat Boise. And here's the fun chaos. This might be my favorite one, guys. We could get a 4-way tie at 6-2. That's not all far-fetched. So if New Mexico wins, Boise wins, and UNLV wins, there's a 4-way tie at 6-2. We go to our favorite computer rankings. Here's the fun one. How can I interest you in a 6-way tie for second place in the Mountain West?
I would love that.
Okay, so you need to cheer for New Mexico, Boise, and UNLV to lose, and you need Hawaii and Fresno State to win. And that puts Fresno State at like a 1% chance if the computers really like them.
Hey, listen, any percentage is a good percentage if you're a Fresno State fan. Golly, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And see, I mean, listen, I know you could have had all of this without the 12-team playoff, but the fact that we're engaged and leaning forward into all of these games anyway, it just makes it that much better. So what a win. What a year for college football.
It's quirky and funny, but I will say I saved my favorite for last because
sure, of course.
In the Sun Belt, James Madison has already locked up the East. And in the Sun Belt, we have one game to worry about. The winner of Troy and Southern Miss wins the West, and they'll go to JMU this week because there's no chaos. There's divisions, and they're great. And I love doing this every year. The chaos scenarios and the tiebreakers are hilarious, but can we please get divisions back? Like this was like a full 2 hours of my morning this morning. Don't tell my employer that, but this was quite a bit of research this morning.
Listen, I'm with you. I think the divisions need to come back. Just, one of the biggest gripes is these unbalanced conference schedules. And I don't know who could have foreseen that going to 16, 17 teams in the ACC's case and getting rid of divisions creates unbalanced resumes to compare data points against each other. Like everybody said that, including us. So yeah, I would love to see divisions come back. Trey, thank you for your service. I feel like we just need salutes, firm handshakes all around. If you are a sicko that is stuck with us hour and a half plus deep into this rivalry week preview, we really appreciate it. We will be streaming at some point this holiday weekend to recap rivalry week. We will be doing a championship stream, obviously, or not a stream, but an episode, and then looking all the way down to Selection Sunday. I believe you guys will have a couple of guests on. We'll be doing a Sunday morning live stream as well. So plenty more content coming up as we gear up for conference championships, as we gear up for the playoff and beyond. For Trey Reeves, Garrett Turney, fellas, not much else to say other than we'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out with us and enjoy your Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving from our family to yours. We'll talk to you later.